Today's lesson is From Tiny Tot to Football Legend, Lionel Messi's Journey to Greatness. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to talk about football, which is called soccer in the United States. This sport is popular all over the world, and most countries refer to this sport as football, the game where you can't use your hands and you kick a round ball around a field and you try to put it in your opponent's net. That's known as football. But if you're in the United States and I guess in Canada and Australia, you will hear this sport referred to as soccer.
Yes, because in the U.S., at least, football is another game in which you can use your hands and you're throwing that oval-shaped ball around and kicking it around. But the topic of today's lesson is a soccer or football legend. His name is Lionel Messi, and he is from Argentina.
Exactly. And of course, we had the World Cup last year in the Middle East there. And of course, the Argentinian team took home the World Cup. And of course, the star player on the Argentinian team was Lionel Messi, and he has become a legend in the game of football. So that's who we're going to talk about today. Let's begin our lesson by listening to the first part, and we'll be right back to discuss it.
From tiny tot to football legend, Lionel Messi's journey to greatness. In any conversation about the greatest football player of all time, Lionel Messi's name inevitably comes up. And after leading Argentina to a thrilling World Cup victory in 2022, Messi has clearly secured his place among the legends of the game. For Messi, however, the journey to football greatness was far from plain sailing.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到片语 of all time， 它的意思是有史以来的、前所未有的或是空前的。例如 There is much disagreement about who the greatest baseball player of all time is. 谁才是有史以来最优秀的棒球选手？众说纷纭。又或者说 Many people believe that Michelangelo was the greatest sculptor of all time. 许多人认为米开朗基罗是史上最伟大的雕塑家。
So today we're going to talk about Lionel Messi and his road to fame, his road to becoming a serious football star. And the first part of today's title, or the title of today's lesson, is From Tiny Tot to Football Legend. Here, the phrase tiny tot refers to a baby. Tiny means small, and tot is short for toddler. Toddler is a small child, a bit older than a baby, maybe a 3-4-year-old, 2-3-4-year-old. Would be considered toddlers. So from the time when he was a tiny tot, tiny toddler, to football legend, we're talking about Lionel Messi's journey to greatness.
Indeed, of course, great football players have to start somewhere. They're all young children at some point. And we're going to talk about his life and times. So here in the first part of our lesson, it says, in any conversation about the greatest football player of all time, Lionel Messi's name inevitably comes up. Yes, his name will come up now, but in the past, of course, if we were talking about who the greatest football player was of all time, you may have heard someone say Pele or Diego Maradona or Hugo Sanchez or people like that. But nowadays, of course, most people consider Lionel Messi as the top dog in the sport of football.
Yes, his name comes up, which means it is mentioned, it is referred to. People think about his name when people talk about the greatest football player of all time. Now, of all time means a period of time that starts in the past and extends all the way into the known future. If you call someone the greatest of all time, you're saying that this person is better at doing a particular thing than everyone that has existed in the past. And in In fact, we have the acronym GOAT, G-O-A-T, that we see often on the internet these days when people refer to somebody as the GOAT. They're saying that this person is the greatest of all time in a particular field. It could be sports, it could be music, acting, and so on.
Right, so some people consider Michael Jordan as the best basketball player of all time. Maybe some people would consider LeBron James as the best basketball player of all time. But lots of people will get around and they will discuss who the greatest football player of all time is, and they'll talk about Lionel Messi. His name will come up. Someone will mention his name. And after leading Argentina to a thrilling World Cup victory in 2022, which was, of course, last year, Messi has clearly secured his place among the legends of the game. So if you're a soccer fan or if you're a football fan, you probably had your eyes glued to the TV when watching the World Cup competition, which took place at the end of last year in Qatar. And, of course, Argentina won that competition. I didn't really watch it because of the time zone difference. And, of course, I was busy with other things. But if you did watch it, you probably thought that it was quite thrilling. It was quite exciting. That's what thrilling means. It's really, really exciting. Like riding on a roller coaster can be very thrilling.
Yes, so Team Argentina's victory is largely due to Messi and his wonderful talents as a footballer. However, it wasn't easy for Messi to get to where he is today. For Messi, the journey to football greatness was far from plain sailing. So he had a rough time on his road to becoming famous. And here, the phrase plain sailing refers to a period of easiness in trying to achieve something. Maybe you have to go through a hard period, a period where you come across many obstacles, but once you've passed or overcome those obstacles, you have a period of plain sailing, which means everything is smooth and easy from now on.
Now, here the term plain sailing just means things were really easy. You were in a relaxing situation and there were no troubles. Nothing was really bothering you. Of course, that's what you want to have when you're taking a sailboat out into the ocean. You want to have plain sailing, and in the USA, we tend to say smooth sailing, but these terms mean the same thing.
Right. So, for instance, I could say, I just passed my final exam, and I still have 2 weeks of classes left, so it's plain sailing from here on.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part.
Born to a working-class family in Argentina in 1987, Messi oozed footballing talent from a young age. Playing for local clubs from the age of 4, he routinely impressed spectators with his incredible ability to score. By the time he turned 10, though, it was clear that something was wrong. Specifically, Messi was far too small for his age, and this stunted stature suggested a significant problem with his physical development.
第二部分我们介绍名词 spectator， 它指的是观看体育比赛、活动或是表演等的观众。例如 The new stadium can hold 10,000 spectators. 这座新体育场可容纳1万名观众。接下来我们看到形容词 physical， 它的意思是身体的或是肉体的，也可以是实体的或是物理的。举例来说Cassandra cares very little about her physical appearance. Cassandra 不太在意她的外貌。又或者说 Some people prefer a physical copy of books rather than an electronic version. 许多人偏爱实体书，而不是电子版的。再举一个例子 Roy suffered no physical harm, but the accident affected him mentally. Roy 未受皮肉伤，不过那场意外对他的心理造成影响。
So now we're going to look a bit at Lionel Messi's past, his childhood. Born to a working-class family in Argentina in 1987, Messi oozed footballing talent from a young age. So we know that he was born in 1987 in Argentina and that he was born to a working-class family. The phrase working class here refers to a social class or social group that includes mainly people who do manual labor or who work in the service industry. So, for instance, factory workers or construction workers, auto mechanics, these would be considered people of the working class. So his family was from the working class, which means they weren't super rich, but they weren't poor either. But when he was a child, he oozed footballing talent. And here the word ooze is usually used to refer to some kind of thick liquid that's coming out of some place. For instance, if you get a cut on your finger, then your finger might ooze blood or blood might ooze out of your wound, which means it's coming out slowly. But used figuratively, it can also describe somebody's qualities like talent or courage or confidence. You can also ooze confidence.
Right, so basically everybody could see that he had a talent for football when he was a kid. He oozed that talent. People could see that talent. And playing for local clubs from the age of 4, he routinely impressed spectators with his incredible ability to score. Okay, so of course a spectator is someone who goes to watch some kind of event, usually a sporting event. So if you're a big baseball fan and you go to a game here in Taiwan, you are a spectator. You're part of the crowd that goes to the game to cheer on your home team.
Yes, and we also use spectator to refer to some sports like baseball can be described as being a spectator sport because it's a sport that a lot of people enjoy watching. It's like watching a show. Whereas golf, for instance, some say, well, golf might be fun to play, but it's not exactly a spectator sport because it's actually quite boring to watch, as some people would say.
Oh, I don't know. Some people love to watch those guys swinging those clubs and walking down the fairway. It can be quite attractive and exciting that way. But yeah, baseball and especially football are exciting sports. Well, maybe not baseball so much, but at least football has a lot of action and it keeps going even though they don't really score that much. And by the time he turned 10, though, it was clear that something was wrong. Okay, so he was a good player when he was growing up, but by the time he turned 10, when he became 10 years old, it was pretty obvious, it was pretty clear that he was having some sort of problem.
Yes, specifically, Messi was far too small for his age, and this stunted stature suggested a significant problem with his physical development. So by the time he turned 10 years old, he became 10, he noticed, or his parents noticed, that his body was smaller than the bodies of other kids his age. So he was smaller for his age, and this stunted stature suggested a problem with his development. So something that is stunted is prevented from growing. It can also be used for objects. Instead of talking about humans, about bodies, you can say that the pandemic stunted the growth of many companies or prevented many companies from growing and developing.
Okay, and of course, stature here just refers to a person's height, how tall they are. So basically, he was shorter than average, and people thought, he's not growing like he's supposed to. And that suggested that he had a significant problem with his physical development. Physical here, of course, refers to your body. And yes, indeed, he just wasn't growing as tall as the other kids. And of course, if you want to play basketball, you need to be tall. But of course, if you want to play football, you don't necessarily have to be that tall, but it certainly helps. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third part.
Sure enough, doctors soon confirmed that little Lionel had a hormone deficiency, the treatment for which was a daily injection of hormones into his legs. But the treatment was too expensive for his family to afford. Fortunately, when he was 12, Messi's immense talent was spotted by a representative of the Spanish team Barcelona. Recognizing that Messi was truly special, the club signed him on the spot and, what's more, took on the financial responsibility for his medical treatment.
第三部分我们介绍片语 sure enough， 它的意思是 果然如此，或是果真。例如 Sure enough, Tim asked his girlfriend for money again. 果然 Tim 又向他女友要钱了。又或者说 I thought that Anne might turn to me for help, and sure enough, she did. 我认为 Anne 可能会找我帮忙，而果然如此。接下来我们看到单字 injection， 它是名词，指的是注射或是增添、投入。例如 I hate to say it, but this medication can only be taken via injection. 我不愿意这么说，但这个药物只能经由注射取得。或是 The doctor gave me an injection of medicine to cure the disease I had. 为了治好我的疾病，医生对我注射了一剂药物。另外，去掉这个字的字尾 ion， 它就会变成动词 inject。例如 The vet injected a sedative into the dog to calm it down. 兽医给狗狗打了一剂镇定剂，让它冷静下来。又或者说 A nurse injected the drug into Kyle's arm. 护士把药注射到 Kyle 的手臂里。最后我们看到形容词 financial， 它的意思是财务的、金融的。例如 Shane often asks Kathy for financial advice. Shane 经常向 Kathy 请教财务方面的意见。或是 Linda doesn't invest in stocks because she wants to avoid any sort of financial risk. Linda 不投资股票，因为她想要避免任何金融风险。最后一个句子People around the world are worried about the financial crisis. 全球各地的人们都在担心金融危机。
So in the last part, we mentioned that when Messi turned 10, his parents, people around him noticed that there was something wrong, that he was smaller than other kids his age and that he had a stunted stature. So they took him to the doctors, and sure enough, doctors soon confirmed that little Lionel had a hormone deficiency, the treatment for which was a daily injection of hormones into his legs. First of all, we have the phrase sure enough that starts the first sentence. You use sure enough when you want to say something happened exactly as you thought it would or as somebody thought it would. Because in this case, Lionel Messi's parents looked at their son and realized, there's something wrong with him. He's not really growing normally. So they took him to the doctors. And sure enough, as they expected, since they thought there was a problem, the doctors confirmed that there was a problem with their son, with little Lionel, because little Lionel had a hormone deficiency.
Yes, a hormone is in your body and it promotes growth. Of course, you've got a term in Chinese that sounds almost exactly like this word. The English pronunciation is hormone. So he had a deficiency with his hormones. A deficiency is when you don't get enough of something. Maybe you're suffering from a vitamin deficiency or iron deficiency. You don't have enough of those minerals or those substances. And so he wasn't getting enough hormones. And then he had a treatment, and the treatment was a daily injection of hormones into his legs. An injection is when you have some sort of chemical put into your body with a syringe. You basically get a shot, like you might get an injection if you're going to get the vaccination for COVID-19. And I guess that was how they decided to treat this problem. But the treatment was too expensive for his family to afford. So yes, indeed, if you're going to get an injection of hormones every day, that's going to be pretty expensive.
Right, because basically hormones are usually, they're what makes a person grow. Teenagers need hormones to go through puberty, to become adults. So if you have a hormone deficiency and you need hormone shots every day, that can be very expensive because they're not normal shots. However, fortunately, when he was 12, Messi's immense talent was spotted by a representative of the Spanish team, Barcelona. So when Messi was 12 years old, he was already very talented and his talent was immense, which means that it was extremely noticeable, it was extremely large, and people took notice of his talent, in particular a representative of the Spanish team Barcelona. And this person decided to help Messi.
Right, of course, Barcelona is a city in Spain, and Barcelona pretty much always dominates La Liga, or the Spanish Football League. And of course, they saw him playing. They probably sent a scout to look at the players in Argentina and look for talent. And they saw him playing and they thought, hey, this guy has got some potential. He might be a good player on our team someday. And recognizing that Messi was truly special, the club signed him on the spot. And what's more, took on the financial responsibility for his medical treatment. So somebody, of course, from Barcelona went over to talk to Messi and said, hey, we see you play here. We're watching you play, and you've got some great talent, and we don't want some other team to get you, especially like Real Madrid. They are our sworn enemy, and we want you to sign with us. So here, sign on the dotted line, and you can join us, even though you're too young, but eventually you'll be able to play for us. So, of course, if you sign for a team, you sign a contract so that you play with them, and if something's on the spot, it's done right there, right away, with no delay.
Right. And what's more, they took on the financial responsibility for his medical treatment. To take on here means to accept, to assume the responsibility for something. And this phrasal verb is often used with the word responsibility. You can also use take on for challenge. Do you want to take on this challenge? Do you want to take on this duty? Do you want to take on this role? And the team Barcelona decided to take on the financial responsibility for Messi's medical treatment. Financial refers to anything involving money. So if you want to get financial advice or advice about how to make money, how to keep money, then you might want to ask your accountant.
Right, so that may have been a risky investment at the time, but it looks like that investment paid off. They took on or accepted the financial responsibility for those hormone shots in his legs. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分的第一句有提到，医生很快就确认小梅西有荷尔蒙不足的问题，治疗方法是每天在他的腿上注射荷尔蒙。那么文中他用到 deficiency 这个名词来表达缺乏不足，然后还有用到 injection 这个名词来表达注射。我们要补充这2个单字的字首字根。好，首先来看到 deficiency 的字根。当我们看到 FIC、FICT 或者是 FAC、FACT 或者是 FECT 这一些字根呢，就表示做、制作、产生。像 fact 这个名词它表示事实嘛，那它就是源自于实际上有做的事情这样的概念。还有像 factory 工厂、manufacture 制造，它们也都跟制作有关。好，那来看到在 deficiency 这个字当中，它的字首 de 表示缺少或是分离，字根 fic 表示制作， ency 是名词字尾。那制作的东西有缺少，那应该可以联想到 deficiency 有缺乏不足的意思。好，那这边补充一个有相同字根的单字是proficiency， 它的字首 pro 表示在点点点之前， FIC 是做， ENCY 是名词字尾。那同学们可以试着联想，如果你对某件事很精通、很熟练，动作就会做得比别人快，在别人做完之前，你就已经把事情完成了。那用这样的方式，也许可以联想到 proficiency 它有精通、熟练的意思。接着来看到 injection 这个字呢，它的动词是 inject。那我们来看看其中的 JECT 这个字根，它表示投掷，含有这个字根的字多半就带有抛出的动作。那么在 inject 这个字当中呢，它的字首 IN 表示里面，那么 JECT 这个字根表示投掷，合在一起呢 inject 就有投入啊、注入或者是注射的意思。像我们说可能投入资金啊、注入液体、注射药物等等，就可以用 inject 来表达。那后面再加上 ION 就会得到我们课文的名词 injection。 顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个补充的是 reject，它的字首 RE 表示 back 往回，字根 JECT 表示 throw 投掷。那么 throw back 丢回去，应该很容易联想到 reject， 它就有不接受、拒绝考虑的意思了。第二个补充的是 eject， 它的字首 E 表示向外，字根 JECT 表示投掷。 那么合在一起 eject 它就有弹出啊、退出或是逐出的意思。像我们在描述飞行员在危急的时候要让自己从飞机里弹出，或者是像 CD 从光碟机里面退出来，还有呢像那种 OK 被逐出餐厅这些等等，我们都有可能用到 eject 来表达。在第三个补充的是 object，它的字首 ob 表示反对，字根 ject 表示投掷。那我们去丢出那种反对对立的言语，应该就容易联想到 object 当动词有反对不赞成的意思了。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Spectator. A huge crowd of spectators gathered to watch the fireworks. Physical. Although Miranda's physical strength is limited, she has tremendous mental toughness. Hormone. Low levels of certain hormones can result in health issues such as weight gain. Deficiency. The priest blamed society's problems on a deficiency of kindness. Injection. The doctor gave Glenn the choice of taking the medicine in pill form or as an injection. Immense. The film's immense popularity made its lead actor a superstar. Financial. In spite of his financial success, the wealthy banker had yet to find happiness.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.